Former Prime Minister Stephen Harper had some thoughts on the recent China-Canada deal. They may surprise you. Here we go.
In May, for the 4 consecutive months, trade with the U.S. has actually gone down from Canada. So I want to get your perspective on what's the longer-term view in terms of trade from Canada, and then also what would you want to tell our American colleagues here?
Look, I'm just gonna put it in this context, just so everyone understands. You know, I think it's fair to say, probably the most pro-American prime minister Canadian history, and
he was a good prime minister. I wish he was back. I mean, it's incredible how much better he was than Trudeau.
Tell people that if a year ago the government had asked me, you know, President Trump's coming in, he's talking about, you know, big challenges on trade, USMCA, tariffs. What would you advise? I would have said a year ago, this is a real opportunity for Canada to really deepen its economic and security partnership with the United States. However, when this government did actually ask me a few weeks ago, my advice was the opposite. My advice was, yes, you know, on the economy, we've got to kind of get something short-term worked out with the Trump administration, but this really is a wake-up call for this country to truly diversify its trade export markets. You know, that's why.
Look, I would say my problem with a lot of people in the Canadian right now is I don't know what the alternative is. Like, I know people are criticizing Carney, and he should be criticized. He's the prime minister, but I don't hear a great alternative from Poilievre or any of the major right-wing commentators. So I do think Canada is in a tricky situation right now. I'd love to hear, I mean, Alberta independence, that might be the answer. I definitely think the thing the Canadian right, which I totally agree with, build the pipeline and build it yesterday. That is insanity that we still don't build the pipeline, but we want to diversify our trade. That's like, I don't want to swear, but that's brutal.
We did sign the trade deals all around the world, Europe, Asia, Pacific, the Americas. And Canada has been, to be blunt, this is, you know, nothing against the U.S. The reality is, independent of the current disputes, Canada has been, to use business term, and I'm in the investment business now, we have been grossly overweight the United States as a country. And
I mean, in terms of trade, he would be correct. It's just USA is the #1 country to try to get along with. They still are. They will be after Trump. Maybe if it'll be Vance or a Democrat, they still will be. Still the world's biggest economy. Still the center of innovation for the world. There's no question about that. But Canada's trade share to USA, the #1 trading partner, is like 62% or something. That is very high. So the idea of trying to diversify away from one market, it does make sense if you're looking at it from an investment portfolio point of view. But I do hope, though, that the thing that does not get lost in what Canada is doing with China, or lately in Qatar the other day, USA is still and will continue to be by far the most important country to Canada. And there will not be a close second, but diversifying trade away from just one big market, I think is a good idea.
There is no reason for that. Just because we have that geographic proximity does not justify the degree of dependence that we have on a single market, which is sometimes disadvantageous.
Yeah, so I agree with Harper. I think Harper would recognize USA is always going to be the most important country to Canada, but some kind of shifting around the weighting, the percentages of trade, not a bad idea. But anyway, with that said, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Have a great day.